Hello, my name is Michael Lambert, and today I want to talk about a number of things, various things that have caught my eye during the course of this last week. Now, earlier this week I got a sort of cold, one of those winter colds, you know, the sort of thing where you get achy joints and you cough and splutter a bit, and all you want to do is go to bed with a Lemsip. And normally they disappear, these colds, they disappear in a couple of days. In this case, it's dragged on for a week. I think it's more or less all over now, but it's always ending now. But it's just been a bother. Nonetheless, I've been in a nice warm house, and I've had a nice warm bed, and I've had lots of nice hot food, and I've taken lots of Lemsips and lemon and honey and all the rest of it. And I couldn't help thinking during the course of this week, what if I had nothing but one set of dirty clothes that I've been wearing all summer? What if I was sleeping in a dirty old sleeping bag on a piece of cardboard under a bridge, with the wind howling through and the rain, hoping that some passerby might give me enough money that I could get out of my sleeping bag and maybe go to the kebab shop and get a bag of chips? I mean, what chance would I have had? And there are now apparently around 10,000 people sleeping rough. And I just can't understand how this can be acceptable. I know there are charities struggling to try and do something about it, struggling to raise money, which is getting more and more difficult, of course, with the cost of living crisis, but it shouldn't really be charities having to deal with this. And, I was thinking how it's strange that we can't cope with something which is relatively simple. I mean, it's not the end of the world to provide some basic accommodation. You know, there are empty warehouses all over the country. You know, get one, divide it up into a number of cubicles, put in some showers, and cook a bit of hot food. It's not going to cost billions. You're talking about hundreds of thousands, maybe. And yet, there's no inclination. I think probably there aren't any Tory donors who'd be interested in getting involved. If there was money involved, it'd be quite different. And I was thinking how, we humans are so clever, so incredibly clever. You think of what we can achieve. You think, I know nothing about science, but I look at astronomers, telling us about galaxies they've discovered that are so many million light years away, and you think, oh, that's a long way. And you think actually, light will travel 7 times around the equator in 1 second. And if it's a million light years away, that's a long bus ride. And yet they can tell you all about them. You look at genome editing, you look at quantum computing, all these phenomenally clever things that are going on, and yet we can't solve a question of people having to sleep in the street. It's really, really terribly sad. And on a similar note, really, on a much bigger scale, I saw an image last week which really I found very upsetting, and you probably would have seen it as well, and you probably would have found it equally upsetting. And it was a little boy in Gaza. He was about 4 years old. He was in a hospital covered in dust and blood and so on, and he was beyond traumatized. This little thing was shaking. His feet were shaking. His hands were shaking. He was just, really out of it, the poor little thing. And, probably, quite possibly, earlier that day, might well have seen his parents smashed to smithereens, or blown up, or his friends, or his brothers or sisters, or whatever, you don't know. But I then started thinking, whatever your view is on the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, it does seem extraordinary that with all our ability, our knowledge, our brilliance, that conflicts end up in violence. That all over the world there are factories making ever more sophisticated machines of destruction, better guns, more efficient guns, kill more, that destroy more. When you look at Gaza now, the state of it, as I say, regardless of what your position is on that conflict, but I mean, is that the only solution? Just destroy everything, And not one obvious point about all that is that doing so much damage and affecting so many genuinely innocent people. I mean, a 4-year-old child cannot be guilty of anything. To do so much damage to so many innocent people, and indeed, I know that Hamas were just as bad. But to do so much damage just will breed resentment, and those children are going to grow up, and they're just going to hate Israel. They just want to get their own back. It's no way to solve problems. I have no idea what the solution is, but there must be some other way than just killing and maiming and destroying. Now, I wanted to say something about the King's speech on last week. Now, again, wherever your position is on the monarchy, a lot of people are violently opposed. A lot of people are very pro the monarchy. I think we can all agree that the Queen was a very diligent and dutiful monarch, and that she performed her duties throughout her life really very well indeed. It must be a hell of a life, mustn't it? All you're doing is going around and shaking hands and meeting people and smelling fresh paint and seeing everybody in their best clothes I mean, it's just a dreadful job, I'd have thought. But she did it well, and I think Charles is the same mould. I mean, I think he feels a great sense of duty and of tradition and so on. And it was his turn to give to give his speech on last week. And I thought what was quite remarkable, you remember when the Queen, I mean, the monarch has to remain politically impartial. And you remember when the Queen turned up a couple of years ago, or whatever it was, with that blue hat on. It was the colour of the EU with the yellow flowers all around it. And it was clearly a hint that she was in favour of remaining in the EU. And likewise with Charles on when it was last week, Tuesday, Wednesday, when he gave his speech, it was just oozing contempt. I mean, a lot of what he was reading out was stuff he totally opposes, particularly environmental stuff, and he couldn't have been more contemptuous. If you listen to the speech again, it's an absolute masterclass in contempt. If he'd just thrown the speech on the floor at the end of it, it would have seemed right. Clearly, he has nothing but contempt for this government. He must look at what the Conservatives have done to our country, particularly because of Brexit, over the last few years, and how we've lost all lost our reputation for being a responsible, competent nation. And I thought it was I thought it was quite interesting. Well worth a watch if you haven't already seen it. And so to where we are now with Sunak and Braverman. I'm recording this at lunchtime on Friday, and the march, the pro-Palestinian march, is due to go ahead on Sunday afternoon. And the situation at the moment is that I think both Sunak and Braverman have a very strong vested interest in there being some violence. That is the only way they're going to get out of this. And I think they're probably praying for violence. I think Braverman's, what she's saying is so provocative, and we know already that lots of right-wing groups, the sort of fat men with swastikas on their tattooed on their chests are coming down, and it's almost inevitable, I would have thought, that there will be some violence. Let us hope there's not very much, but I think there's bound to be some, and whatever there is will be all over the front of the Daily Express and the Daily Mail, telling us what a terrible thing it was, and Sunak and Braverman were both getting up and saying, we told you we should never have had this march, we shouldn't have allowed it to go ahead. But I want to say a word about Braverman, because I've made videos about her before and about how truly awful she is. And this is a woman with huge psychological issues, I think, as a woman who's absolutely filling with hatred. But I think, I may be wrong, but I think she's gone too far this time. I think this is her sort of Partygate moment, and it will all be because of um, not so much about the march and so on, not so much about the article in the Times and so on. It will all be because of her comments about homelessness being a lifestyle choice, and about proposals to bring in fines for charities giving tents to homeless people. I think we all knew that Johnson was, at least we all eventually discovered, that Johnson was a dishonest, incompetent, self-obsessed buffoon. But he got away with it. He got away with it for years and years and years, until Partygate. And I think what happened with Partygate was that people suddenly said, this is not fair. People all over the country being fined thousands and thousands of pounds for having parties. And there they were having a knees up every night in Downing Street and paying £50 fine. And I think people said, this is just not right. And that was really what turned public opinion against him. And I think likewise with Braverman, her comments about the homeless lifestyle choice and the tents, I think it's a moment where the whole nation saw this is unfair. To pick on the weakest, most pathetic, sad, desperate group in the country, homeless people sleeping on the streets, to pick on them is unfair, deeply, deeply unfair. And I think she lost an awful lot of support with that. And I think you've seen over the last few days, you've seen how whenever MPs are interviewed now and they're saying, they're asked, what do you think about Braverman? Do you support what she said? Nobody's prepared to support her. In the debate in the Parliament the other day, she wasn't present, admittedly, but I think there were two Conservative MPs. People are deserting her. And you even had Mark Rowley, the head of the Met, saying that when he asked about the marches and what she said about them, he said she'd just chosen a couple of random words and stuck them together in order to incite whatever. She's a really, really nasty piece of work. She is going along with it is, you can't say otherwise, it's a Nazi playbook. You identify minorities and you just attack them, and you whip up some sort of hysterical hatred of these people. And if it's people who are genuinely concerned about what's happening in Gaza, who want to protest peacefully by marching their hate marches, and it's the immigrants, the boat people. They're an invasion. They're a hurricane. She's obsessed with seeing planes taking off to Rwanda. She's a crazy woman. And I think, as I said, I possibly said before, both she and Sunak right now, every decision they make is based on how will it affect their political future, not on the interests of the country. He is thinking all the time about how much longer can he hang on, and she's thinking about how quickly she can get to be a leader of the Conservative Party. If she ever does become leader of the Conservative Party, maybe she's thinking to herself, well, if I can get Sunak to sack me, I'll go on the backbenches, I'll whip up a lot of antagonism towards Sunak, get the letters going in, and get rid of him, and I'll become Conservative leader. And I tell you what, if she does become Conservative leader, there's every chance that when it comes to general election, she'll fabricate some other crisis, some other violence, and then say, we can't have an election at the moment until we sort out these problems. This woman wants to be a dictator. She's crazy, and she's really wicked and evil. But hopefully that won't happen. For once, one can say, let's hope that Sunak hangs on and can remain to suffer the consequences of his incompetence and the incompetence of the Tories a bit longer. But it's all it's all very sad. It's all a terrible, terrible mess, as I say every week, and we all know things are just going to get worse and worse and worse. But anyway, as I say, we'll see what happens on Sunday. Let's hope things aren't too bad, and that nothing too serious happens. So anyway, that's what I think about it, and as always, if you'd watched this far, thank you very much indeed. If you haven't already subscribed, I really would be grateful if you'd do so, or if you know of anybody you think might be interested in what I have to say. I hope to be back to normal next week, and if you watched this far, thank you very much indeed, and bye for now.